Hello everyone, my name is Mary Tirhinli and this is the last presentation of the year 2019-2020 in MSc Animation and Visual Effects. The theme of the presentation is how can a still artwork be translated into an animated work to evoke emotions in the audience. The outline. In this video, I will talk about the concept, the methods, the timetable, the storyboard, character design, previs, the animation test, and the final video. The concept. Before I proceed to the main presentation, I want to review and explain a little bit more the meaning of this project. As a result, I broke down the title into three important piles. From the beginning of the year, I examined the relationship between still artworks and animation and how emotions can define in between them. In previous semesters, I have already talked about what is a still artwork. It's a painting, it's a design, an illustration, a photograph, a poem, a script, a book, a fashion design, even architecture. Animation, on the other hand, are films, videos, moving images, motion graphics, and video clips. Basically anything that has to do with a moving image. After the notes and corrections of my teachers, in semester 2, I proceeded in some big changes. In order to have an idea, I based my whole theory in Paul Ekman's theory about the 6 emotions that exist in animation. Happiness, sadness, disgust, anger, fear, and surprise are the 6 emotions that rule in my final video, and you can basically see them fully formed as characters. For example, happiness is expressed by swans, sadness by crow, disgust by a pig, anger by a snake, fear by a bee, and last but not least, surprise, which is covered by the main character's acting. The methods. Although I have already mentioned the methods that I'm gonna follow on art and design, I think it's crucial if I just make a small reference again. Observation, experimentation with materials and process were the things I have already talked about in the previous presentations. Right now, I am proceeding to the third one, the making of art, which will be a final 2D animated video. The timetable. After the end of the second semester, we received some notes for how we are going to proceed. The reason that I am mentioning now the timetable is because it was the exact time I did it, before the third semester begins. Since it was our last semester, I have to reconstruct a fully new timetable. Character design. Since the end of semester 2, my characters were all ready and fully formed, apart from one, the last one, the emotion of fear, which is depicted by the character of the bee. So after a lot of research and notes of myself, I came to the conclusion of a design that is represented by a beautiful classic colored bee, but instead of a normal head, she has a big one eye. Although in the procedure of the video I have lots of difficulties with the shape of the bee, I decided to change it. So I created a smaller and more round shape of the bee. Thankfully, I had some difficulties in the movement, but after a while I found some good references on the internet that helped me lots to understand how the bee is gonna move the feathers, which is almost invisible in the human eye. The storyboard. During the semester 1, I did my first attempt to create a storyboard, although it was a photo storyboard. In semester 2, I did some research and I wrote my own script. Finally, I did a handmade storyboard, which I have presented in my second presentation. So now, the only thing I will show you is the last scenes I have left that I did in the third semester. The Animatic. Before I start doing my final video, I was advised to do the previs or else the animatic. So I start to butcher down literally the whole storyboard into roughly images, and after that I throw everything on After Effects. I play a little bit also with sounds, and the most important thing I did, I examined the timing, which in my case it was too long. It was almost 3 minutes. Animation testings. Animation testings were crucial in my case. Since this is my first production of animation, I learned that I have only two ways to go on with. The first one is mask out my characters, put them on After Effects and use the puppet tool. Unfortunately, this was not a good option since my characters start to be disformed. The second option is to do a classic animation hand drawing frame by frame, like Disney's. Well, my friends, guess how I proceeded after that? The final video. It was really hard for me to realize the fully meaning of timing in animation. So I watched a lot of videos according to stop motion and learned the difference between 24 frames per second, 18 frames per second, 12 and 6. I also watched a relative video, frame rates for animation according to 60 frames per second, 30 and 15s side by side by Biscuits Are Alive. Most importantly, I review once again the 12 Principles of Animation by Alan Baker. Some research about the grease pencil, extra courses on vectorial animation frame by frame style with After Effects, keyframe animation by Olaf Storm, and how to do the onion skin in Photoshop. I received further help by the animation chefs in episode 3, in which they are talking about the frame rate falling, as well as the Russian animation. Looking further, the video 100 Ways to Walk by Kevin Patty helped me realize more about the movement of the body to the facial characteristics. More videos that I liked in Sir Wade Naistan's channel on YouTube helped me understand what it means to directing a video, being the director, using scene transitions, camera movements, and editing in the end. By the time I had to proceed in the video, the time was already precious. So as a consequence, I had to simplify more of my characters and restrict the whole acting on my main character's face. The changes that have been done to simplify the video, it was on the horns, some spots on her face, the shade of the head, the little stones on her shoulders, and the line stroke that I used in my finals. As a second consequence, it was impossible for me to put all the color that I was planning to put in my final video. Since it's frame by frame, it is more than impossible for one person to cover a whole video with coloring, especially the way that I was using my lines. So I came with a different solution. The solution of playing black and white, minimal, and negative film wherever it's necessary. The use of color was only to define the drama in certain scenes, as the scene of the panic attack that she's having in the end. Later on, I proceeded to the acting of my main character and how it's gonna move. Since I want to give a smoother move, I had to draw more in-betweens. Thankfully, the character was likewise inspired from my face. So taking videos of myself and breaking it down in betweens, I found the key positions to design and do the sketches and the movement. Similar to the design of the main character, I had to proceed to the design of the secondary characters, such as, for example, the crow or else the raven. The specific reference is taken from YouTube in a video of National Geographic. In order to conclude the main character's acting, I had to sketch 114 different sketches. Proceeding to my final video, I came across facing the meanings of directing. So my first choice was to add some scene transitions in between, like coming up the character from a difficult or weird angle in the scene. Another technique that I meddled with was the camera movement, in which, in order to move the camera from right to the left, you have to sketch exactly from the opposite side, coming out the sketch from the frame. After I finish the sketching of my assets, I proceed in editing the video in Premiere Adobe Suite, in which it gave me the chance to add some extra effects in between the scenes. Finally, I put a lot of consideration when it came to the matter of music. And my first choice was to put the song Cantata from Dead Can Dance. Unfortunately, though, the rights are still in YouTube. That is why I contacted formal email to the companies asking about the permission to using the song. That is why I am taking a second effort to follow my original plan and put just sounds from Zapsplat. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for watching my video.